MMAfighting.com, and we are in Dublin, Ireland for Bellator Dublin and Bellator 227, and I am joined by none other than one of the greats, Mr. Gareth A. Davies. How are you, Gareth? Beautiful to be here finally with you.
It's great to be here. You know, we're celebrating, I think it's the 13th anniversary of you when you were a teenager contacting me on Facebook to ask me if you could work with me. And now, finally, I've been begging you for years to work with you. Now that you're a big star and I get to work with you in Dublin, in your hometown, in the 3 Arena, the scene of so many great MMA fights down the years now.
Absolutely. Now, Gareth, you've been on the front line with Bellator. You know, you've seen this European growth. How significant is this event for you, and how significant is James Gallagher being at the top of this card?
Well, apart from Benson, Henderson and Myles jury kind of satisfying the American market, Paramount, the viewers, the fans over there, this is a fight this is a card including 16, no less than 16 straight blast gym fighters, a pantheon of young British fighters, women fighters, showcasing just really a nurturing young talent that's coming through, and some of the more experienced fighters. I think what Bellator have set out to do is start from the ground up. They're not looking at big names all the time, but they're looking at good matches and names that deliver for what the fans are looking, which is exciting fights. They're all putting it on the line. Most of these fighters have got the opportunity to fight 3 or 4 times a year on Bellator, and that is their lifeblood. That means that a mother like Leah McCourt, who's on the card, can have 4 fights in the year, travel 4 hours, 4 days a week with a young child, and just make a living as a fighter, pay for her camps, do a proper camp. She's just one example, but I think that's the key. They're actually feeding properly into the lifeblood of MMA in the European market. It's a long answer, but I'll give you a lot of them today.
No, I like them. But what I think it was vitally important that they kept James Gallagher on this card, and I mean that's a bit of a nightmare. And you know, commiserations to Cal Eleanor and his situation, of course, but Gallagher accepts a fight on a week's notice against a guy who has over double the experience he has, a guy who's fought in the UFC 3 times, a guy who's fought against Kid Yamamoto, and everyone's jumping down his neck. Is it just a case of this guy just can't, the public just haven't warmed to him? Because I don't understand how anyone could be angry with this kid for taking on a fight on a week's notice, basically. Any fighter, you know?
Well, there's that expression about Marmite. I mean, the cocksuredness of young Gallagher. You love him or you hate him. And, you know, he's the kind of guy who's got the kind of rhino skin. I mean, it's extraordinary, really, at the age of 20. What is he, 22?
22, yeah.
Just 22, isn't he? Rhino skin at his age to be able to take all the flack. I mean, it was Michael Bisping at his UFC Hall of Fame ceremony, and he actually said live to the audience, believe me, when we lose, the grieving process is horrible for us. When you slam us on social media after we've lost, we probably feel every comment. Gallagher is impervious to that kind of pain, I think. He was extraordinary when he lost to Ricky Bandejas. The way he fronted up on Ariel Helwani's show on MMA Fighting, as it was then, after that loss, it was extraordinary. I think it was still on MMA Fighting at the time. I think it was anyway. But he's got a confidence that belies his years, and maybe in some ways what he's shown us so far. What it says to me is that not only has he grown up under the masterful long shadow of Conor McGregor, and also with the brilliant sage expertise of John Kavanagh, he knows what he's capable of because of all the hours he's put in since he was literally a professional from the age of 12. He's the kind of guy who will have it. He hasn't had his breakout moment at the moment. People love to see him win, and they love to see him lose, or they tune in to see him lose, like they did with Chris Eubank years ago, like some people did with Conor McGregor, like some people do with fighters who really talk the talk, who scream the scream, if you like, but then they deliver with their hands, fists, elbows, knees, and him particular, James, with his groundwork. It's a good fight, this. Salazar, though, I thought struggled a little bit with the weight.
Of course.
You know, they've changed it to 145 for him, even though it was a contracted 140-pound bout. James even said to me, I offered him 145 pounds. James got an answer for everything. But what he's got to do when he fights is have an answer for everything. And if he keeps on doing it, I do think he will be a big star.
Yeah, and like I mean, I feel like this is probably the second most difficult opponent he's faced, given the experience, given what he's done. But nobody seems to see it that way. Like,
Well, it's a win-win for Salazar. There is no lose in this for him.
yeah.
People expect him to lose because it's 17 days notice. People expect him to lose because he's struggled with the weight now. People expect him to lose. What is he? 4-6 in his last, or 4-7 in his last 11. 4-7's 11. and the thing is, James has got to deliver something special. I mean, I wrote a piece today just saying, when you talk like James does, the expectation is huge. I worry about his self-confidence sometimes. You and I have talked about this off the record. Like, he's so confident, you almost don't want it to go wrong for him, because you think, God, the schadenfreude that could be foisted upon him, the hubris that could come later.
Absolutely. Now, a guy that many of the US fans won't know is Richard Coley. Richard, of course, came in. He got this fight with MVP. He talked his way into it with the greatest respect to Richard. But he has made this captivating. He's been all over the Irish press. This guy has probably got more coverage than anyone else on this card. But it is a huge gulf. It is a huge gulf to just be 4 fights into your career and be taking on Michael Venom Page. Do you give Richard Coley any chance of going in here and shocking the world?
You have to. He comes from the same background as Michael Venom Page. He knows, because we've seen it, that if you get Michael Venom Page in the right position and you land, that he is vulnerable. We saw that against Douglas Lima back in May in Rosemont, Illinois, that there are vulnerabilities, and that, brilliant as he is as an attacking force, levels above most of his opponents he is as a mover and shaker with his mainly his feet and his hands. There's no risk of him being taken down, I don't think, in this fight. It's going to be a stand-up fight. But what I think Kylie's got to do is not be mesmerised and believe this is a magician in front of you, but stay very focused and pick his opportunities. It's what Douglas Lima did. Having said that, having spoken to Douglas afterwards, and you think about the brilliant fighters he's been in, top 10 fighters probably for the last 5 years of his career in the 170-pound division, he said he's never been in with anyone so quick. He's never been with anyone who's so kind of like a conjurer in front of him. And that's what Kylie's got to do. He may only get 1 or 2 opportunities in this fight, and he may have to take it within the first 6 or 7 minutes, because that's how long I think it's going to take Michael Venom Page to find another Pokemon way of finishing a fight.
You know, it's
Pokemon Mon.
even when the UFC come here, we rarely see champions. You know, like Benson, Henderson, a former UFC champion, one of the best lightweights we've had in the modern era, is over here fighting now, and it's a big deal for diehard MMA fans to have him here. But he's got a tough test in his hands there in Myles Jury. I was talking to Benson just yesterday, and he was saying he expects Myles to be right up there at the top of the lightweight bracket with Bellator for a long, long time. Do you see this as a very competitive fight, or do you think Benson has too much experience and basically just too much experience, and he's too well-rounded for a guy like Jury who's coming in for his Bellator debut this time around?
Well, Jury's on a second life at the moment. So, he had a brilliant start. He was one of the best kind of almost, I don't mean strikers, I mean almost boxer-type strikers we'd ever seen in that kind of next gen of fighters that came through, 5-6 years ago. Won the Ultimate Fighter, didn't he? He was in the final, wasn't he? Or did he win the... I can't remember now. My memory doesn't serve me right. But
and I'm not helping.
I think he emerged from some of his best performances were Ultimate Fighter finale. And I think... what he's shown to be is a brilliant point fighter, but I just think Benson Henderson is a better point fighter. And I think Benson will switch a lot, orthodox to southpaw. And I think if Benson's on his game and doesn't start as slowly as he normally does and get around behind in the first round, I think Myles Jury will be playing catch-up. Having said that, he's had a child. Like I say, he's got a second life in MMA. He had a disastrous kind of end to his UFC career, whatever he was, 3-4 in his last 7 or whatever in the UFC, something like that. But they like him at Bellator. They want to give him an opportunity. He's a very cool, calm, confident athlete and fighter. I think he's very mature now. I think it's going to be a very good contest. But I see Benson, rather like he did against Adam Piccolotti. I thought he lost that fight, actually, but he's got a way of not giving it up, Benson. He's still got a lot in him. The toothpick's gone. I think.
It is.
You don't know.
The media day. I didn't see it.
But sometimes he talks a little bit like that, and I'm looking for the toothpick in his mouth. But it's not that. I wonder if his,
I had a good look.
I wonder if his tongue was pierced the other day because he was talking like this. But I've been looking for the toothpick all week, but I can't see it. But he's still talking a little bit like that, and I don't remember him talking like that before. So I reckon there's a toothpick stuck under his tongue somewhere. You know, it's illegal, Benson. Yeah? So I think a big mouth check before he goes out. They should make him spit before he goes into the cage on Friday night. What are you laughing at?
I'm just laughing at you. You're a magical person. There's so many good fights in this, from Coley to Scope, one of the most competitive lightweight fights you could put on in Europe. We've got Carroll Moore, former Cage Warriors champion, against Lee Chadwick, former Cage Warriors champion. Absolutely ridiculous. But is there any fight that you're looking forward to? You know,
Well,
there's so many.
Love watching the women.
Yeah.
I always love watching the women fight. No, I really do. I'm really looking forward to Leah McCourt and Kerry Hughes.
Mainstream McCourt, as we call her. She's all over the mainstream media.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's fascinating. I mean, I'm off for a game of chess with her shortly. She was a chess champion.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of mindset, being able to maybe physically adapt to mental moves that you're thinking 4 or 5 moves ahead. I've already spoken to her about it. I'm about to get thrashed at chess, unfortunately, showing how small my brain really is. And I just love her story. I love the fact she's a mum. I love the fact that, you know, she's a statuesque woman who loves fighting, did judo, one of 3 sisters.
Fantastic grappler.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, makes this 4-hour round trip 4 times a week to train in Dublin from Belfast. I like the fact she crosses the border. I love all that stuff. And the fact that she's up against a police inspector in Kerry Hughes, who said, you know, I've met a lot of fatties in MMA who's lost 80-odd pounds. Yeah. You know, and she looks like an Olympic wrestler or weightlifter or powerlifter. Very strong. You can see it in her muscularity in her legs. Tiny waist, big shoulders. I'm looking forward to a great fight here. But I've got a theory at the moment. If you picked the top 10 best stories of women in MMA and the top 10 best stories, you know I love a backstory, best top 10 stories of men, I think the women win hands down. And for that reason, I'm looking forward to that fight.
Well, Gareth, I can't thank you enough. All is forgiven for not writing back to that email, you know, and tearing my dreams apart as a young 18-year-old. It's all good now, though.
You made it, though. Look, you made it.
Did I? Yeah. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the fight. Sorry, cut me off there.